The Galaxy S26 base model feels forgotten, not just by Samsung, but by everyone. Are they good or are they bad? I'm going to present both sides of the argument and let you decide in the comments. Let's go. Base models from Samsung no longer feel like they belong in the same conversation as the Ultra. They aren't mini versions of the expensive flagship anymore. They kind of sit on their own, at least in terms of the hardware. Software, they kind of line up. But Samsung continue to make them and people continue to buy them. So there has to be a version of people out there that prefer this over the Ultra. So let's explore why. Today, I'm going to make the case both for it and against it, in the vein of what sort of Marquez and maybe Aaron have done, sort of presenting both sides of the argument. I'm going to review it from the point of someone who pays absolutely zero attention to the spec sheet and from someone who is hyper aware of the hardware. That rhymes. Let's start with the good, because usually I like to be positive. The design and form factor are actually phenomenal. If you are interested in a compact version of a flagship performing phone, look no further. The build quality feels premium, it's solid and dense, and the aesthetics are clean and minimal as well. It's lightweight, it's thin enough, and it's got a stunning display to look at and interact with. Watching content on it looks crisp, peak brightness and looking at it outdoors is amazing, and you've got a refresh rate which keeps everything operating smooth and flawless as you're zipping around the software. Personally, I think the display is one of the standouts here for me. Looking at content on here, especially high sort of contrast content, or whether it be YouTube content, looks crisp, everything looks colorful and bright and vibrant. It's very, very nice to look at. And it provides that experience in literally every condition, whether it be taking photos outside, looking at the screen, or whether it be viewing your content indoors. It's stunning. And because of its size too, it's actually really comfortable to use. Picking it up from a table, unlocking the fingerprint scanner that's excellent on the display, by the way, and then just getting around the software, it means you're not having to do any sort of hand gymnastics to operate it, and it's comfortable and compact and lightweight all in that breath as well. From a design and then from a display point of view as well, it's immensely comfortable and fun to use, and dare I say cute to look at. Look at it, it's so small. Coupled with that too is the enjoyment I'm getting out of using the cameras. It's definitely the best small camera system that I've used. The output is excellent. Any sort of conditions, the main camera is going to give you some excellent shots. The photos come across well balanced. You've got excellent dynamic range, especially in high contrast scenes, and the colors and skin tones all get produced excellently. Taken a lot of photos with it over the last few days, taken a lot of photos of food, and some of the food looks stunning, and then you eat it and then it's gone. I've taken a lot of shots outdoors with it. Down in Broadbeach, as the sun was sort of setting in the afternoon, you get some really nice colors of the blue and the sky, and it looks sensational. And I've even gone and taken some really nice low light shots with it. It's great. I also really enjoy having the two other cameras outside of the main camera, because having the option to take an ultra wide photo or having the option to have a telephoto lens just gives you that flexibility. They don't work as well in lower light as what the main camera does. So I think for lower light, I just will stick to the main camera, but having the option to at least have them means that in other situations, I've got them there. What I also really like is the plethora of camera modes Samsung stack into their camera app. One I've been enjoying particularly that's new here with the S26 is the new 24 megapixel mode that you activate through Camera Assistant. This just gives you that extra bit of resolution to play around with, and also keeps everything looking detailed, but also the processing looks good. And I've set it to the new default, so that's just the one I'm going to use now. For video, it actually gives me a lot of options out of this really compact form factor. I like the fact that if I want to sort of have a bit more control, I've got log video, which kind of keeps everything in a little bit of a better dynamic range. And then the fact that I can now on device add a LUT to it, either with LUT preview or adding the LUTs in the editing process, just gives me that control all from the phone that sits in my pocket. As someone who's not the most sort of clued on when it comes to video, having that flexibility in my pocket is great. And the whole pipeline from start to finish is super simple. But even if you don't feel like shooting in that log higher extended format, just the standard video that comes out of the phone is excellent, and you won't be disappointed for that moment that you need to capture. Point and shoot videography is likely what this thing is made for, and that's pretty much what it would be used for, and it's excellent at that. But if you do want a little bit more as well, the new feature, horizontal lock, gives you that extra bit of stability for that moment that requires it, whether it be just filming in the park or whether you're chasing down your kids. It's great because no matter how shaky the footage gets, the phone will stay stable. And performance-wise, the phone has excellent performance too. I've never felt it drop any frames. I've never felt it drop any performance. It's fast and feels smooth to use, as it should. a flagship phone in 2026. I can easily take advantage of the Galaxy AI features that Samsung have stacked into here. Features like Audio Eraser, which allow you to remove audio from the background of videos, and then it processes it all on device really quickly. And even the log video stuff I was talking about before, the fact I can do all of that on device, and again, do it quickly, gives you that sort of real good portability and performance at the same time. And then if you want to, gaming as well. The gaming experience is great, and you've got like this portable, powerful gaming machine, again, in your pocket. The battery lasts enough to get me through the day, which is all you really want. And then also the charging. I put the phone on a wireless charger at night next to my bed, so charging speed isn't really an issue for me. Overall, it's a great device to use. Great design, excellent display, plus reliable camera output, and really good performance from the chip and the software. It's a great phone and will give you a great experience if that's what you're chasing. Oh, that was painfully positive, because this phone is a scam and no one should buy it. Design-wise, the phone's got this hideous bump here where the 3 cameras protrude out from the back. And it just means that anytime you use it on a flat surface, you're going to get this absolute uncontrollable sort of wobble. And it's just unpleasant to utilize it that way. Samsung's pursuit of trying to decrease the weight and make the phone thinner means that the cameras are always going to protrude out, and their design placement of putting the cameras here mean that it's just going to always wobble on a table. That pursuit of thinness and lightweight comes at the cost of practicality and functionality. It just means that you're likely going to always have to pick it up to use it. The aluminium feels cheap on the side. Samsung should be using titanium here, especially if they are serious about flagships in 2026. It should be a material that they utilize. And every time you do pick up to use it, the display is only Full HD+. That resolution means that you might see pixels on the screen, especially on the 6.3-inch display. There's nowhere in the settings to be able to change it to higher or lower. You're just stuck with Full HD+. It also obviously doesn't feature Samsung's new privacy display tech that they've put in the Ultra, and it also lacks the anti-reflective coating from that display as well. So it just means you're going to get reflections bouncing up all over the place, and it's going to destroy your visual experience of your display. These should be basics for a 2026 Samsung flagship. 120 Hz, also a letdown in 2026. More compact flagships from other brands are now pushing up into the 144 Hz, even 165 Hz refresh rate range. And the fact we're stuck at 120 Hz here on the Galaxy S26 just means you're falling behind what other flagships are already offering. But for me, the cameras are where Samsung's biggest disappointment lies for the Galaxy S26. Samsung are offering the same set of spec'd out cameras that they had from the Galaxy S22 4 years ago. Same 12 megapixel f2.2 ultra wide, same 50 megapixel f1.8 main camera that's the same sensor size as it's always been, and the same paltry 3x 10 megapixel telephoto with f2.4 aperture. I mean, you can't even really call this a telephoto in 2026 with the other options that are out there. It's so disappointing that Samsung can package the same 3 cameras from 4 years ago into a flagship phone in 2026. I don't care what processing pipeline Samsung are putting in here with the new Exynos 2600. Hardware is hardware. And it's disappointing that Samsung are expecting people to pay for the same thing over and over and over again. Second to the camera disappointment is the return to Exynos. Samsung flip-flop again with another year of Exynos in the base models. When will Samsung learn that we only want Snapdragon everything? Exynos' reputation has been burned for years, but Samsung continue to try and force it on us with the compact flagships of the S26 and the bigger brother, the S26 Plus. Whatever benchmarks say or whatever usage experience you might have, it's Exynos. History tells us that we're going to be disappointed by it eventually. The fact it only has a 4,300 mAh battery capacity in a 2026 flagship when everyone else is putting in 7,000 mAh too, it's extremely disappointing. And software-wise, you've got oneui 8.5 out of the box on Android 16. Samsung, with that software, are continuing to try and push Galaxy AI even further, even if we haven't asked for it. The Galaxy S26 is Samsung playing it safe, not pushing the boundaries like they do with their Ultra or even their foldables. When are they going to realize that we just want everything in every phone, and every phone needs to be the same spec, and everything needs to offer everything to everyone? Duh. It's so disappointing, and it feels criminal that in 2026 that they can even sell this with the specs on offer. Okay, I've offered both sides, the good and the bad. It's now your turn to decide what the verdict is in the comments below. Personally, I feel attached to a mix of both. I think people who end up using this phone, and ignore the spec sheet will actually really enjoy the experience it has on offer. because it does have a lot of positives. But the thing is, a lot of people will read the spec sheet and immediately be put off by it because of the fact it is using a lot of the same parts and components, especially with the camera, from 4 years ago. And if that has you hesitating, then yeah, you probably shouldn't get it. But me personally, I did buy it. Not just to review it, but because I think it's an excellent device to have in my rotation. It might even give me a really good video option if I need it. But it's your turn now to decide in the comments below. Make sure you hit subscribe whilst you're deciding down there. More content about S26 series to come. Year's just getting started. And I'll see you guys in the next one. You!